It's very unusual to have access to a very high quality cancer center, particularly in a small town like Spartanburg. In fact, this is a gem, a very much unrecognized gem in the upstate of South Carolina that will go on to provide cancer care to likely millions of patients in the future. This was inspired by the team of Bearden and Josey.
Old school, both old Southern gentlemen, they believe everybody should be treated, everybody should be treated with respect and kindness, and I think it shows.
Julian and Jay Bearden are the most opposite two men I can ever imagine. I mean, they do have in common being lovely Southern gentlemen that are going to do the right thing.
Although Julian and Jay are very different, the traits that they both possess are similar. They are kind, they are considerate, they are compassionate, and they both are true gentlemen.
I think Jay Bearden and Julian Josey individually and collectively are terrific human beings. I think they understand the human condition, care about their patients deeply, far beyond just the challenges associated with the diseases they try to deal with.
I grew up in central South Carolina. It's about 3 miles from Clemson, and my grandfather practiced medicine there, and we moved in next door to them. Granddad practiced up in the very last day of his life. He went out. He had a real gift for OB, obstetrics. Delivered most of the folks there around in Pickens County. He actually delivered Lindsey Graham.
I grew up in Spartanburg in the late 40s and 1950s. My father was a medical doctor who came to Spartanburg in 1927, and my mother was the bookkeeper at the Mary Black Hospital. Old Dr. Sam and Dr. Hugh Black and their father, Dr. H.R. Black, were alive and well and practicing medicine. They were always looking for young doctors. They gave him free room and board in the back of the nurse's home, and he met my mom, and then that's how that history started.
1961, when I graduated from high school and then went to the Citadel, and I'd always wanted to go to military school. I had cousins and uncles that attended there, and I was also told it was a pipeline into medical school. There were 250 of us that started and 8 that finished, but we all got into medical school, so it worked out. And I still have a great love for the Citadel.
I graduated from Spartanburg High School, 1956, and I went to Washington and Lee University. I determined, after having a lot of fun my first 2 years in college, that I needed to bear down, and I transferred to Wofford. I made a very smart move, one of the brighter things I ever did.
When I got out of the Citadel and went to medical school, it turns out that the most competitive and who I thought were the brightest folks, now obviously this is a little controversial now, even now, were the internal medicine physicians. And so that was the area that I wanted to participate in. And when I went into the military, it was one of the largest military hospitals. The fellow that I thought was the brightest at that time was the chief of hematology oncology. So I chose medical oncology, hematology because of that, because I thought it was the most competitive.
But the medical thing in Vietnam that is consequential in my life is I decided that I wasn't sure I wanted to be an obstetrician and a gynecologist. I want to do something else. And I became fairly friendly with a radiologist, and he said, well, why don't you try a year of that, and you could kind of look at other things, and you might decide internal medicine or maybe some surgical subspecialty or whatever. And of course, I stayed in radiology, and then in particular radiation oncology.
When I was looking around for hematology, medical oncology practice, I'd finished my fellowship and I wanted to come back to the Carolinas, and I decided to join a general internal medicine group. At that time, radiotherapists and medical oncologists working together was a relatively unheard of thing, and they were supposedly competitive fields.
Sometimes you meet someone and the chemistry is instantaneous, and that's really what happened. It may sound a little hokey, but that's exactly what happened.
Julian offered to work with me if we wanted to separate and do our own specialties. About that time, he decided that he wanted to do radiation oncology and perhaps a little less diagnostic radiology. So I thought that might work out, and so we developed a relationship. He told me that I could actually join his group and he would help defray some of the cost. And so from the point on that I arrived here, Dr. Josey gave me a lot of encouragement, and he offered to work with me to build a program. And that's how we met and how it started.
And so we started talking about the special needs of our group of patients, cancer patients. And we convinced the Board of Trustees at the hospital and the hospital administrative staff that if we segregated our cancer patients and we trained those nurses, we would have a better way of managing the specific and particular problems and complications that cancer patients were more likely to get.
We started working together, and we had a specific medical oncology unit. Ultimately, that evolved into moving it to the 6th floor. The 6th floor was actually designed for medical oncology patients. We just sort of took over a med-surg floor the first time on 4 South.
During that period of time, the hospital had built the Heart Center. Dr. Joe Utley, coincidentally, his wife, Joella, was my partner for many years, was a consummate heart surgeon and fabulous reputation, not only regionally but nationally. And that had been a great success for the hospital. And we wanted to follow up and build a cancer center. Medical doctors are like most human beings. They can be competitive and they can be protective of their turf, if you will. And that never occurred with us. We knew in order to get the best results with a new patient with a new cancer diagnosis, that if we took the radiation piece, the surgical piece, and the medical oncology, the chemotherapy piece, and combine those at the outset, that we're going to get a better outcome. It's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to execute it. I mean, that's a dreamer. I mean, just to have the vision. We're dreamers, but you got to make the dream come true. You got to get some dirt under your fingernails. You got to really and truly get down there. And to do that, you got to convince some of the naysayers, and you got to convince some people who not only don't share the vision, they're ignorant of what you're trying to do. They're not stupid. They don't get it.
People do better if you can offer them the same level of care within the confines of their own community, with their family support, with their spiritual support, and that they don't have to travel. You can burn up a lot of resources in a hotel room, adjacent to an academic medical center. And if we can bring those new innovations here, the new research here, the doctors we need here, then I think that's all important.
MARSHA and Jimmy Gibbs, and Billy and Lindsay Webster, they're people who have very close to my heart. They've shared the vision as well. But more importantly, they have not just given us money, they've given of themselves. They are actively involved in what we do, and they have a sense of ownership of this cancer center. They want to be involved in the message that we take and what we do in our outreach to the community. And if we build a mobile van to do mobile mammography, to go to where we're going to capture a group of patients who would have never gotten a mammogram, and we diagnose these patients early, we're going to cure them 90% of the time.
Well, I first met Julian Josey in, I guess it was mid-90s. He came to me on behalf of the Spartanburg Regional Foundation and asked my wife and I to make the lead gift to build what was then just Spartanburg Cancer Center. Jay Bearden I met shortly afterwards. I'd heard of their names in the community for years. Even though they're very different, they got some common themes between them. Jay's more of a reserved person. Julian's more of the outwardly going person. But they got common themes. For people to be able within a 90-mile radius of here or even farther, to be able to come and their families be able to stay at home and come see their loved ones that's being treated there for cancer, I felt like it needed to be done.
It is not only of the highest quality, but it's also close to home. It's a very difficult journey, the diagnosis and treatment of cancer, and I think having the quality of a cancer center, both the Bearden Josey Breast Health Center as well as the Gibbs Cancer Center here in Spartanburg allows just an enormous advantage to the citizens of this community to be able to be treated in a very high quality way close to home. Both Jay and Julian are, I think, representative of what is the best about patient-centered health care, particularly patient-centered cancer care, anywhere in the United States.
I am a 10-year cancer survivor. After being to another cancer center, which was all treatment in one facility, I was determined, I would say I was hell-bent to bring the same thing to Spartanburg. And I went to Dr. Bearden and Dr. Josey, and they were completely on board, so I knew I was in the right. And they were behind it 100%.
And we were stunned, quite surprised when they told us they were going to name the center after us, and quite humbling.
I think one of the reasons that Lindsay and I felt it was important to have the Breast Health Center bear the name Bearden and Josey was to make their influence, their legacy, their stewardship in this community permanent. What they have done here is amazing and should be remembered for not just folks who passed through during their lifetimes, but thereafter.
Well, I was a patient there, and Dr. Bearden is still my physician, and I am doing fine because of him. He had to talk me through it, because I did not know what to expect. I was shocked. And as a female, I know the pleasure that you have because you're staying home.
Well, Dr. Bearden and I have worked together for many years in private practice and at the Gibbs Cancer Center. He's much more than a physician to me. He's a loyal friend, a member of my family, has treated 3 of my family members, and I could not have asked for anything more.
People that you surround yourselves with really helps kind of mold you as a physician. But these 2 men, Jay and Julian, molded me not only as a physician, but as a person. And I'm truly indebted to them for that. The most striking thing for me, which touched me the most, was when my mother died of ovarian cancer about 5 years ago. I received a very warm, long, handwritten letter from Jay Bearden. He did not know my mother, and Jay at that time was knee-deep in plans for all kinds of things, but he took the time to write me a very heartfelt and personal letter on her passing, and just shows you the kind of person he is.
People say we finish each other's sentences, which is partly true, but then we grew very close together personally with our families and doing things together, and we really became very, very close personal friends.
Well, with Julian and I, he has abilities, and his personality is a little different than mine, but you know, I greatly value his friendship, and I know he's always looking out for my best interest as I look out for his best interest, but we both look out for the best interest of patients.
They're about 180 degrees different. They've been together. I mean, they're not actually partners in practice, but they have collaborated together for 40 years, and they both do it for the right reasons. There's a lot of people that build things or do work or do very important work, but not always do they do it for the right reasons.
Jay and Julian have affected probably 90% of the people in this county. Julian and Jay have built a cancer center that is world class. The two of them together make this complete amazing package.
A few years ago, I was diagnosed by my colleague and my dear friend with a malignancy myself, and he became not only my colleague and my partner in this adventure, if you will, but my doctor. So it's at many levels been not only rewarding, but a great blessing in my life.
And we've always thought each other had the best motives, and we've gotten even closer over the period of time. And I appreciate that trust that Julian's given me to take care of him. I have to say, I share his treatment with Dr. Tom Witzig at Mayo, and he goes up periodically to make sure we're doing everything right, and he's offered all the newest treatments.
Where I was in the Mekong Delta was jungle, and that's where massive use of Agent Orange was used. That dioxin containing poison was used to defoliate the jungle. It was an incredibly devastating environmental thing to do, and it really didn't accomplish what it set out to do, but it sure did kill a lot of monkeys. But what it really did was leave this residue there for these soldiers to be exposed to, and it's a very toxic, cancer-causing substance. And the cancer I have is a result of Agent Orange. And my friend, Joe Calloway, who wrote this book and who's my comrade in arms, has a lymphoma, and all a result of Agent Orange.
If you want to go back to something as basic as being a platoon leader in Vietnam, you know, my whole mission was to try to keep my men alive. And actually, that's what Dr. Josey does every day of his life. And while my mission was only as a platoon leader 6 months, he's done it his whole life.
Both patriots, both ex-military, both cancer doctors. Both are very passionate about what they do. They just truly two great guys. I don't know in my lifetime that we'll ever cure cancer, but I've always believed there's a way to prevent cancer, and I think that's one of the things that we talk about.
One of the fun hobbies that Julian has, and he prides himself on, is as a gardener. And my understanding that is he has one of the broadest selection of chili peppers that you'll find in almost any home garden. And he's very proud of that and the concoctions that he can produce from that garden.
With Jay particularly, he's very concerned about his patients, spends a lot of time, probably works anywhere from 12 to 13 hours a day. Because he spends so much time at the hospital and has always spent a lot of time, he doesn't have a lot of hobbies, and it's hard to find things that you could do together. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided that we were going to get a boat. And so we have a boat. Everybody knows about our boat adventures. We've run aground lots of times. We've gotten lost. We've had the engine breakdown. We're also, neither one of us, I'm probably more mechanical than Jay's mechanical, but neither one of us can fix the engine. So we've been towed a lot. We've had lots of adventures, but every one of them is good because it's something so different for both of us.
I am Julian Josey's oldest daughter. Really and truly, his work ethic, I think, is the quality that not only I admire most, that I would like to emulate the most. He's 77 and he's had cancer twice, and he still goes into work every day, which I think is pretty incredible. It made me want to be a nurse. He and Dr. Bearden have achieved so much together more so than apart.
Each of them are visionaries in their own way for their own subspecialties, and they had ideas about what needed to be done in those areas that they concentrated on and accomplished a very high level of performance and of giving care to patients.
I trust him. I mean, I would trust him with anything, and I think the trust on a personal and a professional basis, you know, on a family basis, has just been invaluable. And I know that decisions he makes with regard to us are in our best interest, but first of all, we'd like to put the patients first. He can outmaneuver most politicians, most board members, and a lot of business folks. So
I think Jay has embellished that image of me a bit. I'm not as masterful a politician as he may think. Well, you know, Jay Bearden is beloved in this community on many levels. He is beloved in his church. He's served in many capacities as in the Presbyterian Church. He's a wonderful Christian gentleman who displays the finest aspects of the Christian ethic, love for your fellow human beings. And with that, we have a bond because we similarly think as far as the least among our brethren that we should reach out to them.
You know, when Julian came to see me with the vision of the Cancer Center and asked me whether I was, you know, if we were both on board with this, and I said yes, but I didn't have any idea of the scope of what he was imagining. And you know, I thought maybe I'd be in an office and we would do the clinical research in the office and supply things. But Julian had the vision to see that if we could put this together, we could help a lot more people.
Our forward march in the battle against cancer is research and now the genetic component that makes cancers a cancer. We're on it at the level where we're making some major breakthroughs. And in the next 40, 50 years, will we cure all cancers? No, we'll never do probably that. But we're getting much, much closer to the cause. If we know what the cause is, we don't have to treat the disease. we treat the cause.
We're looking at building a new facility at Pelham. The reason being that we're landlocked where we are right now. We're not going to abandon the Gibbs Cancer Center, the Breast Health Center. We're going to utilize it to its maximum. But we've got to have a facility in which we can put all the disciplines together.
You know, it's really unusual for a medical oncologist and a radiation oncologist to work so closely together. Julian and Jay came together 30 plus years ago and sowed seeds for a cancer program. Those seeds have grown into a true multidisciplinary cancer center, and without their vision, we simply wouldn't have it.
I would say that Dr. Bearden and Dr. Josey are like the ever-ready bunnies of doctors in Spartanburg, because they not only keep on going, but they keep having new ideas, new projects, fundraising, completing, fundraising for the next one, and it's remarkable what they've achieved.
They're real, and they're wonderful physicians, wonderful clinicians, and they're good friends, they're loyal, they're honest, and they truly care about the patients, and they care about the upstate of South Carolina.
Forever, this community will think of them as individuals, but will always link them as two people who came together and created a very unique and highly capable but highly respected nationally, regionally, and locally facility for people who have contracted this terrible disease.
You know, people used to say when they got sick or when they had a bad disease, especially cancer, they had to go elsewhere to get treatment. It was just the way it was. But bam, when we got going in Spartanburg, we had these two men who said, no, we can do it here. We can do everything they can do elsewhere right here. We just have to get started. And they did get started.
Cancer care in Spartanburg will always have silver hair. Jay and Julian are just so memorable and iconic, not only in what they do, but in the way they look. And I think that we'll always remember not only the silver hair, but also their relationship with each other. They really do love each other. They play off of each other, and they're just fun to be around, especially if there's a glass of wine in the middle of the table.
Both of them have been have received several awards in the last couple, 2 or 3 years. But I think the best reward that the people of South Carolina and North Carolina, Georgia, and other places could say when they see them, just say thank you.